Well, here's a message from a man who should know. The second man on the moon, Colonel Buzz Aldrin.
We can explore the moon and develop the moon. We should go boldly where man has not gone before.
Buzz Aldrin is a name many think of when it comes to space and big accomplishments. From being part of the historic Apollo 11 mission to walking on the moon, he's had some pretty amazing moments. Even now, he's still pushing for more space exploration, but there's still a lot of mystery surrounding the solar system and more. Well, in this video, Buzz reveals everything in a shocking interview. Buzz Aldrin's journey. Now at 94 years old, Buzz has decided to open up like never before, revealing the untold secrets that were once kept hidden. During his time on the moon, he had a mind-blowing experience that stayed with him ever since. I saw this illumination that was moving with respect to the stars. We were smart enough not to say, Houston, there's a light out there that's following us, he recalled, hinting at an encounter that's remained a mystery until now. Born Edwin Eugene Aldrin Jr. on January 20th, 1930 in Montclair, New Jersey, Buzz came into a world on the brink of massive change. His father, Edwin Aldrin Sr., worked as an executive in advertising, while his mother, Marion, took care of the family at home. Buzz was the eldest of 3 siblings, and even as a child, he displayed a natural curiosity and a drive to explore, qualities that would define him for the rest of his life. Growing up, Buzz wasn't just focused on academics. He was always active, swimming, skiing, and doing whatever he could to burn off his seemingly endless energy. While he enjoyed those outdoor activities, his true passion for aviation started to take shape as he got older. But the connection with flying wasn't instant. It took time. During his high school years at Montclair High, Buzz got involved in student leadership and stood out for his academic excellence. Even though he wasn't yet fixated on space exploration, his interest in aviation and engineering began to grow more and more as the years passed. When Buzz graduated from high school, he didn't waste any time diving into higher education. He attended the United States Military Academy at West Point, a prestigious school that was as demanding as it was respected. For Buzz, it was more than just a place to get an education. It was a stepping stone towards something bigger. At West Point, Buzz honed his focus, pushing through the tough academic and physical challenges. He found a love for engineering and the sciences, which would become key parts of his future career. By the time he graduated in 1951, Buzz was ranked 3rd in his class with a degree in mechanical engineering. After West Point, Buzz's path took him straight into the United States Air Force. It wasn't just about serving his country. It was about flying. Buzz had always dreamed of becoming a fighter pilot, and the Air Force was the perfect place to turn that dream into reality. His time in the Air Force allowed him to develop the skills and experience that would later take him beyond the Earth's atmosphere and into the history books. He quickly moved up the ranks and was chosen for more advanced flying programs, setting the stage for the groundbreaking career that lay ahead. The Korean War. Buzz Aldrin's time in the Korean War was a defining chapter in his early life, shaping his character and helping set him on the path to become a pioneering astronaut. After graduating from the United States Military Academy at West Point in 1951, Buzz was commissioned as a 2nd lieutenant in the U.S. Air Force. Armed with a degree in mechanical engineering, he was ready to serve his country. But what really fired him up was his love for flying. Buzz's dream of becoming a pilot quickly turned into reality as he began his flight training. His natural talent in the cockpit didn't go unnoticed, and by 1952, he was assigned to the 16th Fighter Interceptor Squadron. It was here that his military career would intersect with the brutal realities of the Korean War, a conflict that would test his courage and skills like never before. The Korean War, which began in 1950, was a fierce and complex conflict between North Korea, supported by the Soviet Union, and China, and South Korea, backed by the United Nations, with the US taking a central role. While much of the fighting took place on the ground, the skies were just as contested, and the role of the US Air Force was crucial in maintaining air superiority. It was in these skies that Buzz would prove himself as a fighter pilot. By the time Buzz arrived in Korea, the US Air Force had already become heavily involved in combat, facing a new and dangerous enemy, the MiG-15, a Soviet-made jet fighter flown by North Korean and Chinese forces. The MiG-15 was a formidable opponent, and the US needed skilled pilots to defend against these new threats. The main aircraft in the US arsenal was the F-86 Sabre, a sleek, highly maneuverable jet designed specifically to combat the MiG-15. Buzz quickly got to work flying combat missions in the F-86 Sabre. His job was to intercept enemy aircraft, engage in high-speed dogfights, and provide support to US ground forces. His first combat mission was a trial by fire. The air over Korea was a battleground, with pilots engaging in fast and intense dogfights where quick reflexes and split-second decisions could mean the difference between life and death. Buzz showed his mettle early on, proving that he had the skills and courage to take on the enemy in the most dangerous of circumstances. The dogfights were intense, and the stakes were high. The skies over Korea were filled with aircraft darting and weaving at breakneck speeds, each trying to outmaneuver the other. It was a high-pressure environment that required precision, quick thinking, and an iron will. For Buzz, it wasn't just about flying. It was about surviving and accomplishing the mission. During the intense air battles of the Korean War, Buzz Aldrin quickly earned a reputation for his precision and tactical brilliance. As a fighter pilot, he wasn't just focused on one mission. He was also responsible for providing crucial support to ground forces. Fighter pilots like Buzz played a pivotal role in the war, offering close air support during ground operations, which helped to keep enemy troops at bay and protect American and Allied soldiers from ground attacks. Buzz's ability to stay calm under pressure and execute complicated maneuvers made him an invaluable asset to his squadron. But while his skills in the air were exceptional, Buzz's time in Korea was far from easy. Fighter pilots faced constant danger, from the ever-present threat of enemy fire to the physical and mental challenges of long, exhausting hours in the cockpit. Flying at high altitudes and dealing with the intense G-forces during combat missions put incredible strain on the body. Plus, the mental exhaustion of flying for hours on end, sometimes in high-stress dogfights, took its toll. Every mission was a battle, not just against enemy aircraft, but also against fatigue and the ever-looming risks of combat. Despite these challenges, Buzz demonstrated remarkable resilience. He flew a total of 66 combat missions in Korea, each one a nerve-wracking experience where survival depended on skill and luck. Missions often involved flying over hostile territory, engaging in close-quarters combat with enemy aircraft, and doing so with the constant knowledge that danger could strike at any moment. Yet, Buzz's calm demeanor and sharp focus in the heat of battle earned him a reputation as one of the best in his squadron. His ability to stay cool and make precise decisions under fire set him apart. His exceptional performance didn't go unnoticed. Buzz's bravery and skills in combat earned him several military honors. He was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, an honor given for extraordinary heroism or achievement while flying in combat. He also received the Air Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, recognizing his repeated acts of courage and excellence in aerial combat. These awards were a testament to his outstanding ability as a pilot, but they were just a glimpse of the determination and skill he displayed during his time in Korea. By the time the Korean War ended, Buzz Aldrin had cemented his place as one of the US Air Force's most accomplished and respected officers. But that was just the beginning of his journey. The next chapter. After the Korean War, Buzz Aldrin continued his service in the US Air Force, but his focus was starting to shift towards something much bigger: space. By this time, the idea of space exploration was beginning to take hold in both military and scientific circles, with rockets and spacecraft gaining increasing attention. The possibilities of what could be achieved beyond Earth's atmosphere were starting to excite a new generation of thinkers, engineers, and dreamers. Buzz's career in aviation had taught him the importance of pushing boundaries and embracing new challenges. His experience flying high-performance aircraft and facing life-or-death situations in combat gave him a unique mindset that was perfectly suited for venturing into the unknown. It became clear to him that the next frontier was not just above the clouds, but out in the vast expanse of space itself. With this newfound sense of purpose, Buzz decided to further his education to prepare for the next chapter in his life. In 1963, he earned a doctorate in aeronautics from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, which was a huge achievement and a testament to his dedication and passion for aerospace. At MIT, he worked on research that would eventually help pave the way for future space missions. adding a scientific and academic foundation to his already impressive career in aviation. Before long, his hard work and dedication paid off. Buzz was selected by NASA to join the astronaut program, marking the start of a new phase in his life. His background as a highly skilled fighter pilot, combined with his expertise in aeronautics and his scientific training, made him a prime candidate for the space program. He knew that the future of aviation wasn't just about flying jets, it was about reaching the stars. Buzz wasn't alone in his vision for the future. The 1960s were a time of incredible technological progress, and the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union was in full swing. The Cold War rivalry was pushing both countries to achieve feats of engineering and exploration that seemed almost impossible. The idea of landing a man on the moon was no longer just a dream. It was becoming a real possibility, and Buzz was determined to be a part of that historic journey. In the early 1960s, NASA was still in its early stages, and the selection process for becoming an astronaut was incredibly competitive. Thousands of highly qualified candidates were vying for a chance to join NASA's astronaut program. But Buzz's first attempt in 1962, when NASA selected its second group of astronauts, known as Astronaut Group 2, didn't immediately land him a spot. The competition was fierce, and only a select few would make the cut. But Buzz's determination and his unique combination of skills made him a perfect fit for the ambitious goals of NASA. Even though it took a little time, he wasn't going to give up on his dream of becoming an astronaut and contributing to the future of space exploration. Buzz Aldrin's first attempt to join NASA's astronaut program didn't go as planned. Despite his impressive background as a fighter pilot with over 2,000 hours of flight time, his application was rejected. The reason? NASA's astronaut selection process was highly focused on candidates who had test pilot experience, a background considered essential for the unique and demanding nature of space missions. Test pilots were seen as having the specific skills and experience needed to handle the risks and technical challenges of early spaceflight. Buzz was disappointed, but he wasn't discouraged. He understood why he hadn't been selected, and rather than giving up on his dream, he decided to take it as an opportunity to improve his qualifications and make himself an even stronger candidate. Buzz knew that his extensive combat and flight experience as a fighter pilot was a valuable asset. But he also realized that he needed to go further if he wanted to stand out in the competitive astronaut selection process. So, he set out to strengthen his credentials and ensure he had everything needed to reapply. In 1963, NASA announced a new round of astronaut selections, and this time, the criteria were slightly different. Along with test pilot experience, NASA now required candidates to have at least 1,000 hours of flight time in jet aircraft, a threshold that Buzz far surpassed. This was a key turning point. He now had the experience needed, but he didn't stop there. How he got to the top. Buzz had also earned a PhD in aeronautics from MIT. His doctoral research focused on rendezvous techniques for spacecraft, a critical area for space missions. This specialized knowledge added a unique layer to his qualifications and gave him a significant edge over many of the other applicants. His technical expertise and scientific training set him apart and made him the ideal candidate for NASA's growing space program. While many astronauts had military backgrounds or test pilot experience, Buzz's blend of flying hours, academic knowledge, and passion for space exploration made him stand out. In May 1963, Buzz's persistence finally paid off. He received the life-changing news that he had been selected as one of the 14 members of NASA's Astronaut Group 3. This was a huge milestone in his life, and a stepping stone to becoming one of the most iconic astronauts in history. His dream of exploring space was finally becoming a reality, and he was now part of an elite group of pioneers who would be at the forefront of space exploration. Once selected, the training process was grueling and intense. Like all new astronauts, Buzz had to undergo rigorous physical and mental preparation. The demands of spaceflight were unlike anything he had experienced before. The mental focus, the physical endurance, and the technical skills required to operate spacecraft were all part of the astronaut training program. However, Buzz wasn't intimidated. He had already faced high-pressure situations during his time as a fighter pilot in the Korean War, where the stakes were often life and death. The intense training, long hours, and physical challenges were nothing new to him. Buzz had always been disciplined and had learned how to perform under extreme pressure. Those qualities, honed during his years as a fighter pilot, would serve him well as he adapted to the demanding new world of spaceflight. One of the key aspects of Buzz Aldrin's astronaut training was becoming an expert in mission planning, trajectory analysis, and flight planning. Buzz's background in aeronautics, combined with his problem-solving skills, made him a natural fit for these responsibilities. He quickly became known for his ability to break down complex problems and come up with practical solutions, which was crucial for the success of any space mission. He didn't just focus on flying the spacecraft. He was deeply involved in the science and logistics behind the missions. Buzz worked closely with other members of the astronaut corps to ensure that every mission was carefully planned, meticulously analyzed, and executed to perfection. Throughout his training, Buzz demonstrated a deep understanding of the science and technicalities of space travel. While many of his fellow astronauts came from military backgrounds, Buzz stood out for his technical expertise. His PhD in aeronautics gave him an edge that not only made him an asset in mission planning, but also allowed him to contribute valuable insights to NASA's growing body of knowledge about spaceflight. His ability to think critically about every aspect of a mission helped to ensure that NASA was well prepared for the challenges ahead. During this training period, Buzz learned some shocking information, details that had been kept under wraps for years but would later come to light. It was during this time that he began preparing for one of the most important missions of his career. The Gemini 12. By the time Buzz was selected for this mission, he had already established himself as a highly skilled astronaut and engineer. His technical abilities, coupled with his years of experience and rigorous training, made him the perfect candidate to take on the complex challenges of Gemini 12. But this mission would prove to be even more significant, as it would ultimately cement his legacy as one of the most capable and innovative astronauts of his generation. Gemini 12, launched on November 11, 1966, was the final mission of the Gemini program. The Gemini program itself had been an essential step for NASA in the lead-up to the Apollo missions. It was during Gemini that NASA tested and refined many of the techniques and technologies that would be needed to land a man on the moon. Missions like Gemini 12 focused on mastering key spaceflight skills, such as spacewalking, rendezvous and docking procedures, and maneuvering spacecraft in orbit, all of which would be crucial for the success of Apollo. Buzz's role in Gemini 12 was pivotal. This mission would be his moment to shine, especially when it came to spacewalking. While earlier Gemini missions had already made strides in this area, Buzz's expertise and ingenuity helped make significant advancements in spacewalking techniques. He was able to overcome challenges that had stumped previous astronauts, demonstrating the ability to move and work in space with greater efficiency and effectiveness. His success during this mission played a huge role in perfecting the skills that would be necessary for the Apollo missions, particularly for the eventual lunar landings. Gemini 12 came with the added pressure of being the final mission of the Gemini program, and a direct precursor to the Apollo missions, which were targeting the moon. The stakes were incredibly high. Buzz's crew for Gemini 12 was led by veteran astronaut Jim Lovell, who had flown on Gemini 7. Jim and Buzz were tasked with completing a wide range of objectives during the mission. One of their most important goals was to test and refine the rendezvous and docking techniques that would be absolutely vital for the Apollo missions. The two astronauts had to practice the precision maneuvers that would later be needed to dock with lunar modules and conduct operations in lunar orbit. This ended up being one of his most successful missions ever. The perfect mission. Gemini 12 was the perfect mission for Buzz Aldrin to showcase his skills and make a lasting impact on space exploration. By this time in the Gemini program, spacewalking had been identified as one of the most challenging and unpredictable aspects of human spaceflight. Previous Gemini missions, including Gemini 9A and Gemini 11, had encountered significant difficulties during spacewalks. Astronauts struggled with the cumbersome spacesuits, found it hard to maneuver outside the spacecraft, and faced physical exhaustion due to the lack of experience in microgravity. These earlier challenges made it clear that spacewalking would require major innovations before astronauts could confidently work outside the spacecraft for extended periods of time. Buzz's participation in Gemini 12, however, would change that. He was determined to prove that astronauts could not only survive, but thrive while performing tasks in space. During this mission, Buzz made history by completing the longest and most successful spacewalk ever conducted up until that point. His spacewalk lasted over 5 hours, far surpassing the duration of previous efforts. But it wasn't just about the length of the walk, it was about how successful and effective it was. Buzz's performance helped demonstrate that astronauts could perform complex tasks in space with precision, even while floating outside the spacecraft. He successfully manipulated tools, took photographs, and conducted experiments, all while working in the challenging environment of microgravity. One of Buzz's most significant contributions during this spacewalk was his innovative approach to staying tethered to the spacecraft. On earlier missions, astronauts had struggled to secure themselves properly while performing tasks outside the spacecraft. They would use tethers or attempt to manually hold on, but this often proved unreliable and physically exhausting. Buzz, however, introduced a new device, the golden clamp, to secure himself more effectively to the spacecraft. This clamp was designed to be more reliable and allowed him to stay safely attached while carrying out a variety of tasks. With this new system, Buzz was able to work more efficiently and safely, demonstrating that it was possible to conduct scientific work in space for extended periods without the risk of floating away. The golden clamp was just one example of how Buzz helped refine spacewalking techniques. The ability to stay tethered securely gave him the freedom to focus on the work at hand, making it possible to conduct experiments that had previously seemed impossible outside the spacecraft. Buzz's work during the spacewalk proved that astronauts could perform with precision even in the weightlessness of space, a vital skill that would be essential for the Apollo missions, and particularly for the moon landings. In addition to the golden clamp, Buzz also had to learn how to control his movements in space. Since there was no gravity to help him orient himself, Buzz used a small handheld thruster to adjust his position and move from one part of the spacecraft to another. This was a critical skill to develop, as it would be necessary for astronauts to maneuver precisely in the vacuum of space when performing complex tasks, such as conducting repairs or preparing for a lunar landing. Buzz's use of the thruster added another layer of efficiency to his spacewalk, helping NASA refine techniques that would be used in future missions. While the spacewalk was undoubtedly the highlight of Gemini 12, the mission had several other important accomplishments. The spacecraft itself had undergone significant improvements over previous models. Gemini 12 was the first mission to test a new rendezvous system, which was designed to allow spacecraft to safely dock with each other in orbit. This system would be crucial for future lunar missions, including the Apollo program. It allowed spacecraft to come together in space, a technique that would later be used to dock the Apollo spacecraft with the lunar module before heading to the moon. After completing the successful Gemini 12 mission, Buzz Aldrin returned to Earth as a hero. His groundbreaking spacewalk had been a defining moment, not just for the mission, but for the future of human space exploration. The mission's success was a testament to Buzz's skill, perseverance, and ability to innovate under pressure. His spacewalk, which lasted over 5 hours, was the longest and most successful to date, and it had a profound impact on how astronauts would approach working outside spacecraft in the future. What Buzz accomplished during Gemini 12 would go on to directly influence the way astronauts conducted their tasks in space. The new techniques he developed, like using the golden clamp to securely tether himself to the spacecraft, and the use of a small handheld thruster to control his movements, became essential for spacewalks on later missions. Recently, Buzz Aldrin has become the center of attention for a shocking revelation that took many by surprise. His interview. Recently, Buzz Aldrin has found himself in the spotlight once again for a pretty wild revelation that's been turning heads. As the second man to walk on the moon, Buzz already had his place in history, but his latest interview has added an unexpected twist to his incredible legacy. To put it in perspective, Buzz is best known for his role in Apollo 11, the mission that fulfilled President Kennedy's ambitious goal of landing a man on the moon. On July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong made history as the first person to step onto the lunar surface, and shortly after, Buzz followed him down the ladder, becoming the second person to walk on the moon. The two of them spent a total of 21 hours on the moon, collecting samples, conducting experiments, and just soaking in the whole surreal experience. Buzz was essential to the mission. He piloted the lunar module to the moon's surface and helped with the landing, while also playing a crucial role in the experiments. When they got back to Earth, the Apollo 11 crew became global icons. But for Buzz, life after the moon was a bit harder to navigate. The pressure of being a hero, combined with the weight of such an epic achievement, made adjusting to life on Earth tough. Buzz has been pretty open about the struggles he faced with feelings of isolation and even depression after coming home. Still, he never lost his passion for space exploration. He became an advocate, lecturing around the world and pushing for continued space missions to inspire future generations. But it's not just the past that keeps Buzz in the news. Recently, in an interview, he dropped a bombshell that had people talking. Buzz shared his thoughts on a strange discovery made on Phobos, one of Mars's moons. A NASA probe had sent back an image of what looked like a weird, rectangular structure on the moon's surface. To most people, it might have just looked like another space oddity, but Buzz's reaction was what really got people's attention. Normally, Buzz is known for being grounded and logical, but in this interview, he sounded genuinely intrigued by the discovery. He described the object as very unusual, and pointed out that Phobos, a small moon, orbits Mars once every 7 hours. He even suggested that this object might not be a natural rock formation, but something someone put there, or even built. Buzz, a guy who spent his entire career looking at space through a scientific lens, was seriously considering the possibility that this could be something man-made, or even alien. Could this be evidence of extraterrestrial life? The timing of Buzz's comments makes it even more interesting. The discovery of the monolith came at a time when space exploration is really heating up again. NASA is pushing forward with plans to return to the moon, and Mars is now a major target for future missions. So when Buzz started talking about the monolith, it felt like his remarks weren't just a random thought. It felt like he was hinting that maybe, just maybe, we're not alone out there. For years, people have speculated about the possibility of alien artifacts or structures in space. The idea of discovering signs of an advanced civilization on another planet or moon is something many have dreamed of. And while it's still uncertain what the monolith on Phobos is, Buzz's comments opened up the possibility that it might be something far more significant than a simple rock formation. Could it be a leftover structure from an ancient civilization? Or maybe, just maybe, something more advanced? What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.